At my mother-in-law's birthday dinner in Rome, my seat was missing. My husband Liam chuckled, saying, "Oops, I guess we miscounted," and the family burst into laughter. I calmly replied, "Seems I am not family," and walked out. Half an hour later, they realized I had canceled the whole event. The venue, the catering, everything. Their faces turned pale as I repeated, "Seems I am not family," my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Those words lingered in the air of that exclusive Roman restaurant as 12 pairs of eyes stared back, showing shock or barely hidden satisfaction. Liam's light chuckle, "Oops, we miscounted," still echoed as I turned and left the table where no chair was set for me. The humiliation coursed through me, but no tears fell. Instead, an eerie calm settled as I took out my phone and opened the event management app that was the foundation of my career. I had 30 minutes before they noticed what I was doing. Plenty of time to act. Before we start, I want to thank each of you for joining this amazing journey. Sometimes, the strongest moments come when we finally realize our own worth. If you have ever felt like an outsider, this story might speak to you. Now let's follow Clara Vance's path from Boston's top event planner to a woman restoring her dignity in Rome. Don't forget to hit subscribe to be part of this experience. Our community of readers who value tales of personal growth and unforeseen resilience, now let's reveal the hidden side of a marriage founded on appearances. My name is Clara Vance Sterling. 5 years ago, I was simply Clara Vance, the creator of Prestige Events, Boston's most in-demand event planning company. I had established my enterprise from nothing after financing my own business education. Every sophisticated gala, every flawlessly coordinated corporate function, every high society wedding in Boston carried my unseen mark. My reputation for confidentiality, meticulousness, and making the impossible happen had made me the preferred planner for the city's upper crust. That is how I crossed paths with Liam Sterling at the charity gala I organized for Boston Children's Hospital. Tall, with perfectly styled dark hair and a smile that lifted the corners of his eyes, Liam displayed the effortless confidence of someone who had never needed to worry about finances. He was charming in that reserved way, typical of men born into privilege, but there was something sincere in his curiosity about my work. "So you are the mastermind behind all this?" he asked, pointing to the transformed ballroom of the Four Seasons. "My mother has been struggling to decide whom to hire for her charity event next month. I believe I have found her solution." One project led to another, and soon I was regularly managing events for the Sterling family, Boston's aristocracy. Coming from old wealth rooted in shipping and railroads, they possessed a distinct kind of fortune that did not require flaunting. It was apparent in the refined quality of all their belongings and the effortless way they moved through their circles. Our love story began 6 months after I started working with his family. Liam chased after me with the same intensity he applied to his role at the family's investment company. There were signs to be cautious, naturally. For instance, the way his mother Beatrice glanced at me with barely hidden disdain when Liam first introduced me beyond being just his event coordinator. Casual remarks about my modest background, the shock in people's tones upon learning I was involved with a Sterling. "You have done quite well for yourself," Beatrice had commented during our initial dinner as a couple, her smile failing to reach her eyes. Self-made success is so American. I chose to overlook these signals because I was falling for Liam, who seemed more progressive than his family, less fixated on pedigree and social rank. When he proposed 11 months following our inaugural date, I accepted despite an uneasy feeling that I was stepping into a world that might never fully embrace me. The wedding became naturally the highlight of the social calendar. I organized most of it myself, as I could not trust another planner with my own special day. Beatrice voiced her thoughts on everything. The venue was not traditional enough, the menu was too daring, the list of guests lacked important society figures. I found myself making compromises wherever I could. I was determined to stand my ground when it mattered most to me. Liam acted as the peacemaker in the family, yet I sensed he seldom openly challenged his mother. After the wedding, the subtle sabotage became more deliberate. Even though the Sterlings frequently used my company for their events, they constantly second-guessed my decisions, altered plans at the last moment, and claimed credit for my ideas during family gatherings. My input was sought only to be ignored later. My expertise in event planning was dismissed as a mere delightful hobby instead of the successful business it truly was. Beatrice would remark to her friends, praising Clara Vance's keen eye, while patronizingly patting my hand, adding, "It is almost as if we have a personal party planner in the family." Liam never stood up for me. He would just shrug and explain afterward that his mother was like that, urging me not to take it personally. But it was personal, and over time it grew worse. The chance to organize Beatrice's 70th birthday in Rome should have marked the pinnacle of my career. A week-long celebration in the Eternal City, culminating with a dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant overlooking the Colosseum. I dedicated myself completely to crafting an impeccable event, calling on every connection I had in the business. It was during this period of preparation that I started seeing the first signs of fractures in the Sterling facade. Payments for venue deposits were postponed, and vendors began inquiring about outstanding balances. When I mentioned these concerns to Liam, he dismissed them, saying the family accountant was merely being cautious with international money transfers. Yet, when I reviewed the statements, the truth was unmistakable. He had accidentally left his laptop open. Investments had turned sour, properties were heavily mortgaged, and lines of credit exhausted. The Sterling fortune was rapidly shrinking, yet I continued making plans, relying on my own company's credit line to cover deposits whenever necessary. I kept telling myself this was only temporary. Liam would clarify everything once the birthday celebration was over. Then came the morning of our departure for Rome. Liam was in the shower when his phone buzzed with a message. Normally, I never checked his phone out of respect for his privacy, but something compelled me that morning. The preview from I was unmistakable on his screen. "Cannot wait to see you in Rome. Have you told her yet?" My fingers moved almost on their own as I opened the message thread from Isabel Croft, Liam's college girlfriend, the woman his parents had long admired, the woman they expected him to marry before he met me. The messages stretched back months. Plans for the future had been discussed, and yes, a child, their child, was due in 4 months. I quickly captured screenshots, emailed them to myself, then deleted all traces from his phone. I packed my bags, put on a brave face, and boarded the plane to Rome with my husband and his family. Now standing outside a restaurant in Rome, I made up my mind. I would not confront Liam before dinner. I would let things take their course. When the moment came, I would be ready. Our plane landed at Fiumicino Airport just as the golden Italian sunset bathed Rome's skyline. I had arranged private transport for the journey ahead. The entire Sterling group gathered together. Liam's parents, Beatrice and Arthur, his sister Sophie with her husband David, his brother Julian accompanied by his wife Nina, plus 2 sets of aunts and uncles. The lineup of sleek black Mercedes cars waiting at the terminal should have made a strong impression. Instead, the first words Beatrice spoke after stepping off the plane were, "I thought I had specified the hotel cars, Clara. These look rather ordinary." I held back my frustration, something I had done many times before. The hotel had encountered an issue with their schedule, and the vehicles we saw actually belonged to Lux Transport, the company that serves most of the diplomats in Rome. My explanation fell on deaf ears, since Beatrice had already turned to Arthur, whispering conspiratorially in a manner that always excluded me. The Hotel de Russi welcomed us with the 5-star experience I had carefully arranged. Champagne poured freely in the private lounge, while bellhops whisked away our luggage. I had spent countless hours ensuring the finest accommodations, selecting suites offering the best views, preparing welcome baskets stocked with Italian gourmet treats, and crafting personalized itineraries for every family member. Beatrice barely glanced at her schedule before disregarding it completely. "We will just take things as they come," she said, brushing away weeks of detailed planning. The family was, after all, already very familiar with Rome. Our suite was extraordinary, featuring a terrace overlooking the Spanish Steps, fresh flowers placed in every room, and a bottle of Liam's preferred Berlato resting on the sideboard. But as soon as we entered, Liam's phone vibrated, and he stepped aside to answer the call. On the terrace, speaking quietly, I asked Liam when he got back. He replied it was just some investment matters, without meeting my eyes. "Let's get ready for dinner," he said. The welcome dinner I had organized at a cozy trattoria in Trastevere turned into the first obvious sign that I was being left out. Somehow, the seating arrangement changed just before we arrived, and I ended up at the far end, separated from Liam by his cousin and aunt. Throughout the meal, inside jokes flew over the table, stories about past family trips to Italy I had not attended. When I tried to join the discussion about the week's plans, Sophie cut in. "Oh, Clara, we actually decided to do some family shopping tomorrow instead of the Vatican tour." "Family shopping?" I questioned. Beatrice smoothly jumped in. "Just a little tradition we have." "You would be bored, dear. Why don't you use that time to take care of the birthday arrangements? That's your specialty, after all." This pattern carried on for days. I'd wait to catch Liam only to find a hastily written note about him meeting his father for breakfast. The family would vanish for hours on sudden trips that everyone seemed to know about except me. Whispered talks in hotel corners stopped abruptly when I approached. Dinner bookings were mysteriously altered to fit in old friends who happened to be visiting Rome. Friends who eyed me with barely hidden curiosity, as if judging how I was dealing with the situation. On the third morning, an opportunity presented itself when Liam hurried off to meet his brother, leaving his briefcase unattended. Unlocking it, the documents inside confirmed my worst fears: draft separation papers. These were prepared by the Sterling family lawyer and dated 2 months earlier. The proposed settlement offered a mere fraction of what I deserved and, most disturbingly, included a detailed script. This script outlined exactly how Liam was supposed to announce our impending divorce at his mother's birthday dinner, portraying it as a mutual and friendly decision. My hands shook as I captured photos of each page with my phone. There it was in black and white, a perfectly staged exit from the role of the unsuitable wife, timed to cause maximum public shock, yet minimize social embarrassment for the Sterlings. Beatrice's birthday was far more than a celebration. It was meant to be my social death as a Sterling. Instead of directly confronting Liam, I turned my anger into careful documentation. Every day, I found reasons to return alone to our suite, searching for further proof. I uncovered bank statements that revealed enormous withdrawals to accounts overseas, as well as email printouts that discussed liquidating assets before the news became public. A handwritten note from Beatrice to Liam read, "Once this unpleasantness with Clara is behind us, Isabel will be properly welcomed back." My professional facade stayed strong as I continued supervising the party preparations. I made sure the floral arrangements were perfect, met with the restaurant manager, and approved the bespoke menu cards. While gathering digital traces of the Sterlings' fragile financial setup, whenever someone asked why I seemed preoccupied, I blamed last-minute details of the event. In truth, I was preparing my arsenal. The morning of Beatrice's birthday arrived bright and clear. I awoke early and quietly slipped out of bed to avoid waking Liam. The day's itinerary was full. A private morning tour at the Borghese Gallery, lunch at a vineyard outside the city, and then back to the hotel to get ready for the grand dinner in the evening. As the event planner, I needed to reach the restaurant early to make sure everything was flawless. I was at the hotel's business center, printing the final confirmations, when I overheard Beatrice's voice from the nearby concierge desk. The thin dividing wall allowed her sharp tone to come through clearly. "There will be 12 seats, not 13, she told someone on the phone. "I do not care what the original reservation says. The seating chart I sent is final." She continued, "No, that will not cause any issues. The arrangement has been discussed with my son. His wife will not stay for the dinner. It is a family matter, you understand. No questions needed." Once she left, a chill ran through me as all the pieces suddenly fit together. The missing seat was not a mere mistake or last-minute change. It was the heart of their scheme. A public slight crafted to force my departure to seem voluntary rather than planned by them. I closed my laptop. I gathered my documents and walked steadily toward the elevator. Inside, I took out my phone and started organizing a new series of plans. If the Sterlings desired a birthday celebration that would be truly unforgettable, I was determined to deliver exactly that, just not in the way they expected. I arrived at a Roma restaurant a full hour before the other guests, as any skilled event planner would. The rooftop location provided a stunning panoramic view of the Colosseum, glowing warmly under the amber hues of the sunset. I meticulously checked every detail, from the hand-calligraphed place cards to the floral arrangement featuring Beatrice's favorite white peonies and roses. The champagne was perfectly chilled, the 7-course tasting menu finalized, and the 3-tiered birthday cake was a masterpiece showcasing Italian craftsmanship. "Is everything to your satisfaction, Senora Sterling?" Matteo, the maitre d', asked. "Perfect," I responded, knowing this would be the last occasion I would organize for the Sterlings. Despite everything, my professional pride demanded nothing less than excellence. Later, I returned to the hotel to change into the midnight blue Valentino gown I had selected specifically for this night. As I applied my makeup carefully, I examined my reflection. 5 years of striving to belong to a world bent on rejecting me had left their mark. Not by breaking me, but by strengthening my determination. The Sterling family had arranged to gather in the hotel lobby. Before leaving together for the restaurant, I arrived exactly on time to find everyone waiting. Beatrice looking magnificent in a Chanel creation with her diamond necklace sparkling in the light. Liam's eyes widened slightly as he noticed me, maybe recalling what drew him to me initially, or perhaps figuring out how quickly he could be rid of me. Beatrice said, "Clara, darling, you look lovely," as she kissed near my cheeks softly. We were just waiting for the cars. The drive to the restaurant was brief, but filled with forced small talk about the day's events from which I was excluded. As we took the elevator to the rooftop, Liam placed his hand on the small of my back, a gesture that once felt personal, but now appeared staged for the elevator attendant. The doors opened, revealing the breathtaking terrace I had designed turned into an elegant dining area beneath the stars. The Colosseum glowed against the night sky, symbolizing both magnificence and the inevitable decline of empires. How appropriate. Beatrice stepped in first, greeted by warm applause from the assembled family members. One by one, everyone moved toward the large round table I had requested, a table meant to seat 13. I followed Liam, who walked determinedly toward his designated seat beside his mother. I reached the spot where my place card should have been, only to discover there was nothing, no chair at all. No place was set for me, and there was no acknowledgement of my presence. For a moment I stood motionless, a silent portrait of bewilderment, as the conversations continued around me. Everyone found their seats, carefully avoiding making eye contact with me. The staff member who had confirmed the seating arrangement only a few hours before appeared uneasy, but said nothing. "Is something wrong?" Beatrice asked softly, her tone just loud enough to catch everyone's attention. I responded with a steadiness I did not feel. "There seems to be a mistake. My place setting is missing." The carefully orchestrated scene unfolded exactly as they had rehearsed. Eyebrows knit together, exchanged looks passed between them. Liam half rose from his chair, his concern a show that never quite reached his eyes. "That's strange," Sophie murmured as she studied the table. "Did someone miscount?" Arthur cleared his throat, suggesting maybe there was a mix-up with the restaurant staff. Then came Liam's line, delivered with a casualness that made my skin crawl. He actually laughed and said, "Oops, I guess we miscounted." The family chuckled along, a laughter filled with the quiet amusement of insiders sharing a private joke. At that moment, I understood everything with brutal clarity. The deliberate humiliation, the choice of this public place to avoid any outburst, and the prearranged stories they would spin later about poor Clara, supposedly unable to manage the pressures of the Sterling family. Slowly, my eyes scanned the room. At the table, each face took in Beatrice's victorious birthday smile. Arthur appeared uneasy but did nothing, while Sophie and Julian enjoyed the scene, their spouses aware of the cruelty enough to feel a tinge of shame, but not enough to speak up. Liam, my husband, the man who once vowed to stand by me against the world, watched with detached curiosity, like a scientist examining an experiment. I could have caused a scene or demanded a chair to reveal their scheme in front of the waiting guests. They had hoped for such a public display to become a story told in family history for generations to come. That was their plan. Beatrice would comfort Liam over his unstable wife, and the narrative of divorce would unfold on its own. Instead, I straightened my posture, lifted my chin, and spoke the 4 words that marked the beginning of my reclamation of power. It was simple, yet devastating in its truth. Seems I am not family. The smiles wavered, and Liam's expression changed from arrogance to doubt. I had stepped off their scripted path. "I will see myself out," I said, turning away with the dignity that had sustained me throughout my marriage. "Clara, don't be dramatic," Liam called after me, another phrase from their predictable playbook. "We can fix this." I did not answer. Nodding politely to the staff who had witnessed my shame, I walked through the restaurant. Only in the elevator did I finally allow myself to take a deep breath. By the time I got to the street, my hands had already stopped trembling. Across from the restaurant, a small cafe presented the ideal spot for observation. I ordered an espresso and took out my phone. This was the moment I had been preparing for. During the next 30 minutes of freedom, while the Sterlings congratulated themselves on successfully removing the unsuitable wife, I began acting. First, I sent a carefully composed email to Matteo, the restaurant manager, containing instructions we had previously agreed upon as a surprise backup plan. This is common in high-level event coordination. Attached were documents proving my authority as the account holder and event organizer, along with confirmation of immediate payment reversal. Next came the calls to the vineyard for tomorrow's lunch, the private Vatican guide scheduled for the day after, the yacht captain for the Amalfi Coast trip, and the villa in Tuscany reserved for the last weekend. One after another, I canceled all the arrangements, transferring the deposits I had made on my business credit card back to my company's account. With every cancellation, I felt a growing sense of relief. Emails from Liam appeared, starting off angry, then confused, and finally desperate as he realized what I was doing. I ignored every message. 28 minutes after leaving the restaurant, I finished my espresso and paid the check. It was time for the final scene. I straightened my Valentino gown and crossed back over the street, ready to witness the moment Beatrice ruined Sterling's flawless birthday celebration. Surrounding her, I entered Aroma Restaurant through the service entrance, a path I had grown familiar with. During my earlier visit, Matteo, the restaurant manager, greeted me with a worried look. "Mrs. Sterling, are you sure about this? It is highly unusual." "I am absolutely sure, Matteo, and I trust you will keep this confidential." I handed him a sealed envelope containing evidence of reversed payments and the cancellation of my company's guarantee for tonight's charges, as we had agreed. "The Sterlings will need to arrange an alternative form of payment to continue their meal." Matteo nodded quietly. In this business, connections meant everything. I had collaborated with Matteo on 3 prior occasions for other clients from Boston visiting Rome. He owed me favors, and although he may have found my request odd, professional respect required him to comply. "When should I notify them?" he asked. "I will send you a text in approximately 5 minutes. I want to watch from a hidden spot." He led me to a small alcove near the kitchen doorway, offering a perfect view of the Sterling table. They were in the midst of raising champagne glasses for a toast, faces shining with pride and satisfaction. The first dish had just arrived, imported oyster caviar, a special request of Beatrice's. Taking apart Beatrice's birthday celebration turned out to be easier than expected. Most premium suppliers in the hospitality sector operate within a trusted circle of recommendations and rapport, especially during events. I was the planner who organized everything, and the company's credit line covered the deposits. I held full authority to make any adjustments. The digital record of emails, contracts, and payment approvals all had my name and signature, not Beatrice's or Liam's. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with a new message from Liam. He asked, "Clara, where are you? Stop acting childish and return. Another mother is upset, and you are embarrassing yourself." I did not reply. Instead, I texted Julia at Villa Borsa, where the family was meant to stay during the Tuscany part of their trip. Julia confirmed the cancellation and wished me well. She added that my generous tip to her team would be refunded separately to my business account. My phone vibrated again, this time filling up with several texts from Liam arriving quickly one after another. The hotel had just called claiming our booking for the next night was cancelled. He demanded, "What are you doing, Clara? This is absurd. Call me right now. This is not a joke. Fix this immediately." I then messaged Matteo to proceed. From my concealed position, I watched Matteo approach the table with 2 other employees. He leaned in and quietly spoke to Arthur, who was seated at the head of the table opposite Beatrice. The family continued dining, initially barely noticing the disruption. Arthur's face shifted from polite interest to confusion, and then to alarm. He pulled out his wallet and spoke more urgently to Matteo. The manager shook his head in apology and showed Arthur something that left him unsettled. By now, everyone at the table had noticed the interruption Beatrice caused as she put down her fork. Her elegant demeanor barely concealed the first signs of unease. Liam was fixated on his phone, likely reading my most recent message stating what I had done. "All funds have been returned to my company account. All plans for the week cancelled. Your family's financial troubles are about to be exposed to the public. I hope you enjoy your caviar." The situation played out like a flawlessly directed chaos ballet. Arthur stood up, his face burning with either anger or shame, maybe both. Beatrice clutched her diamond necklace tightly as if seeking comfort. Sophie was urgently whispering to her husband. Julian pulled out his phone to try verifying the shocking news. Liam remained motionless, his face growing pale. Unlike the others, he grasped the full gravity of the situation. He understood what I had uncovered about their finances and the consequences if his mother's wealthy acquaintances found out the Sterlings could no longer afford a dinner bill, let alone sustain their extravagant lifestyle. My phone rang. Liam was calling now, no longer sending texts. I declined the call and watched as he suddenly rose from the table, nearly toppling his chair, then stepped aside to call again. This time I answered, and he hissed, "Clara, what do you think you're doing?" "I'm not family, it seems." I calmly replied, "So I'm not. Being responsible for family celebrations means you need to fix this immediately. Do you realize how shameful this is for my mother, for all of us?" "I have a very clear idea, Liam. That was exactly the point." "Where are you?" His tone shifted, desperation slipping in. "We have to talk. I can explain everything about Isabel and the whole situation." "I am sure you can. But the problem is, I have seen the financial reports, Liam. I have seen the emails. I know the Sterling Empire is falling apart, and I know you have been hiding assets overseas before filing for divorce." His sharp intake of breath told me what I already suspected. He never thought I would uncover any of this. He underestimated me, just like his family always had. Those were private. Yes, but so were the text messages from Isabel about the baby. Just like the announcement script for our divorce during your mother's birthday dinner and the seating plans that purposefully left me out. There was silence on the line. In the restaurant, I noticed the manager now addressing the whole table. Several other guests watched with obvious curiosity. The Sterling family's disgrace was turning into a public spectacle, exactly what they intended for me. "Clara, please." Liam's voice was completely devoid of its usual aristocratic assurance. "You do not understand what this will do to us." "I do understand perfectly. That is why I did it. We can fix this. Come to the hotel. I will wait for you there in 20 minutes. "No, Liam, I do not think this can be resolved." I ended the call. I stepped out of my hiding place. It was time for my final appearances as well. As I approached the table, 12 pairs of eyes fixed on me, some filled with anger, others with fear, but all with disbelief. Beatrice spoke first, her voice trembling with rage. "How dare you spoil my birthday?" I smiled, feeling a surprising calm. I had learned from the best, after all, Beatrice. Isn't this exactly the outcome you intended for me? A public disgrace? A staged exit? The only change is that I rewrote the ending. Arthur stood up. "This is unacceptable. You had no authority." "I had every right," I cut in. "Every contract, every booking, every arrangement was under my name or my company's name. I simply made adjustments to the plans." "You will regret this," Sophie snapped. "When Liam divorces you, you will get nothing." "That is where you are mistaken," I said, locking eyes with Liam. "I possess evidence of everything: the offshore accounts, concealed assets, and fraudulent business operations. I am confident the authorities will find the information quite revealing." Their expressions turned pale as the full weight of my words sank in. In that instant, I did not feel triumph or revenge, only a deep sense of freedom. I turned and walked away from the Sterling family forever. The following morning, I left Italy, upgrading myself to first class on a direct flight to Boston, using points earned from organizing the Sterling family's past vacations. The irony was not lost on me. Behind me was a family descending into chaos, their carefully constructed facade crumbling. The hotel's constructed facade was rapidly falling apart, and through the concierge I discovered that the Sterlings had settled their dinner bill by leaving Beatrice's vintage Bulgari bracelet as a form of collateral until a wire transfer could be completed by morning. News quickly traveled across Rome's elite hospitality circle that the famous American family was facing payment troubles. Vendors who had not been directly canceled started demanding payments in advance instead of accepting promises. My phone was flooded with messages, some threatening and others begging for clarity. I read them during my layover in London while sipping Earl Grey tea in the British Airways lounge. "Arthur, this situation requires immediate action. Our lawyers will contact you." "Sophie, you have made the biggest error of your life." "Julian, did you believe you could disgrace our family without any repercussions?" Beatrice's note was the most telling. "I always suspected you lacked class. This spiteful behavior only confirms what I've believed from the start." However, the flood of texts from Liam revealed the true state of the family's collapse. First, "You have no idea the consequences of your actions. My father suffered a mild heart episode. Is that what you intended?" Then, "Both the Ashworths and Daltons witnessed everything. Do you understand what this means for our reputation?" Later, "The hotel demanded full payment for the entire stay up front, stating that all guarantees had been revoked." Finally, "Please, Clara, I must speak with you. This concerns more than just us now." Despite all the pressure, I chose not to reply to any of these messages. Instead, I sent the financial records I had collected to my attorney with clear instructions to keep them safe until needed. If the Sterlings decided to take legal action, I wanted to be ready. When I arrived at our Beacon Hill brownstone, I hired a moving firm to pack up my personal effects. I only took what was unquestionably mine: my clothes, jewelry that I had bought myself, my collection of first edition books, and the artwork I acquired before our marriage. Everything else, including wedding presents and items purchased together, I left behind. I did not want anything that could connect me to the Sterlings' tangled web of deceit. 2 days later, the Boston Globe ran a brief piece in their society section titled "Investment Group Faces Inquiry." The story highlighted financial irregularities and concerns raised by investors. Although it was not front-page news, it was enough to create unrest within Boston's social circles. Liam showed up at my new apartment without warning, 1 week after I had returned from Rome. He looked worn out, the polished surface of privilege replaced by genuine anxiety. "You need to come home," he said when I opened the door. "This has gone far enough." I replied, "This is not a negotiating tactic, Liam. This is divorce." He entered without asking, running his hands through his messy hair. "The SEC is investigating father's accounts. 2 board members have quit. Mother had to cancel her charity event because 3 major donors withdrew their support." "That sounds like a Sterling family issue," I answered. "Not mine." "It is your problem if I go down with the ship," he replied. "We are still married. My debts are your debts." I allowed myself a faint smile and said, "Not when I have evidence that you intentionally kept me out of financial matters and concealed assets to deceive me during the divorce process. My lawyer assures me that is enough to protect my interests." His confident front completely collapsed. Then Liam slumped onto my couch, his head buried in his hands. I never wanted this to happen. "What exactly did you want, Liam?" "To marry me for my event planning skills, to use me as a social calendar manager while you reconnected with Isabel, then discard me when I was no longer useful." "It was not like that in the beginning," he said softly. "I did love you. But not enough to confront your family, not enough to admit the affair." Sitting across from him, I felt oddly composed. "When is the baby due?" His head shot up. "How did you know?" 4 months, based on the messages I saw." "Congratulations." A heavy silence settled between us as rain began tapping against the windows of my new apartment, smaller than our brownstone but mine alone, paid for with the earnings from a business I built without any Sterling money or connections. "I will give you whatever you want," Liam finally said. "Just hand over those documents and sign a confidentiality agreement. Name your price." That was the moment I understood the Sterlings still did not. After 5 years, they still failed to truly understand me. They continued to see me as someone who could be bought, driven by the same material desires that shaped their lives. I told Liam, "I do not want your money. I want my freedom. I want the truth." I made it clear I was standing firm, signaling that our discussion was over. The papers would remain with my lawyer unless he tried to drag me down with him. The divorce conditions were straightforward. I would leave with what belonged to me, and he with what was his, Isabel and the baby. His voice dropped to a whisper. "That is between you and your conscience. I hope you become a better husband to her than you were to me." After he walked away, I gazed out the window as the rain poured down harder. In the weeks that followed, the controversy slowly surfaced. The Boston Globe published a detailed report exposing financial irregularities within the Sterling Investment Group. Longtime clients quietly pulled their funds, and Beatrice's role on 3 distinguished charity boards changed from active to emeritus status. Isabel's pregnancy became public when she was seen at her obstetrician's office sporting an engagement ring. The timeline revealed their relationship had restarted well before our marriage officially ended. In Boston's elite circles, unfaithfulness might be overlooked if handled discreetly, but such open betrayal broke the unwritten rules. Surprisingly, my business prospered despite, or possibly because of, the scandal. Clients who had once looked down on me began to admire my discretion and honesty. The story spreading around was no longer about me, but about integrity amid chaos. A woman betrayed, but this time about a professional who refused to be used and then abandoned. 6 months later, I got an invitation that made me laugh out loud as soon as I opened it. A request to submit a bid for organizing Beatrice Sterling's upcoming charity event. Clearly, desperation had finally conquered pride. I declined politely, explaining that my schedule was full. The divorce was finalized quietly, without any drama. The Sterlings concentrated on repairing their reputation and finances, agreeing to my conditions without any disagreement. Liam and Isabel married quietly, and their daughter was born just 2 weeks later. I sent no present. On the first anniversary of that night in Rome, I was planning another event in Italy, a high-profile wedding on the Amalfi Coast. Standing on a terrace that overlooked the Mediterranean, phone in one hand and vendors at my command, I had an unexpected realization. I was happy, not in spite of the end of my marriage, but because of it. The Sterlings had tried to diminish me, to make me just an accessory in their grand story. Instead, they unintentionally freed me to take back control of my own narrative. Losing what I thought I wanted led me to what I truly needed. Not acceptance from a family set on rejecting me, but the bravery to turn down a life built solely on appearances. I raised my glass to the setting sun, toasting an empty chair that had shown me exactly where I truly belonged.